Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Sunday at 4 from Upper Trosnham Baptist Church, live on Facebook and YouTube. My name is Pastor Richard Miles, and I'm glad to be with you again today. Now, we often hear, don't we, people being described as being humble. And usually, when we talk about people being humble, we're talking about people who don't push themselves forward necessarily. They may be people who just do things very quietly in the background, and yet the things that they do are important, but they don't make a big fuss about it. We say they are humble. Sometimes being humble is to do with what people might consider socially, in terms of certain jobs being seen as more humble than others. If we go back to the days when there were big houses, you had the servants who were downstairs. They were seen as being the ones who were humble, rather than those who lived above stairs. But the whole thing about being humble really is not so much about somebody's actual status, but it is the person's attitude towards something. Are they people who are just full of themselves and just want to promote themselves? Or are they people who would consider themselves last and yet put others first? Very often, those are humble people. I mean, you see it even in the world of TV and show business. Just to give a couple of small examples, and in one sense, in the great scheme of things, these might not seem very important, but I did hear that a singer no less than Dolly Parton has decided that she didn't want to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame because she feels she's not good enough. Well, I actually think Dolly Parton's an excellent singer and would certainly be good enough, but that's what her feeling is. She has been very humble about that. Even though she is a really good singer, she is not wanting to push herself forward. I must say I enjoy watching Richard Osman's House of Games each week, which is on Monday to Friday at 6 o'clock. If you get a chance to watch it, it's a quiz show, in case you don't know. And they have celebrities on there who each win a prize each day for winning the quiz. And one of the participants this week won the quiz for 4 out of the 5 days. A lady who I'd not come across before, by the name of Rita Lena, her name was, and she won it 4 days out of 5. But she very generously decided that she would give her prizes on 3 of the days to the other contestants, so that each of them would go home with something. Not putting yourself first. That's what really being humble is all about. Now, on this day today, we particularly think about being humble because today in the Christian calendar is the day that we call Palm Sunday. It's the day when we remember Jesus riding into Jerusalem on a donkey. And the very fact that he rode on a donkey meant that it showed that he was humble. The donkey was a very humble animal, and riding on a donkey would show humility. So I'm just going to first of all read to you an account of what happened on that day from John's Gospel, John chapter 12, verses 12 to 16. The next day, the great crowd that had come for the festival heard that Jesus was on his way to Jerusalem. They took palm branches and went out to meet him, shouting, "Hosanna! Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Blessed is the King of Israel." Jesus found a young donkey and sat upon it, as it is written, "Do not be afraid, daughter Zion. See, your king is coming, seated on a donkey's colt." At first his disciples did not understand all this. Only after Jesus was glorified did they realize that these things had been written about him and that these things had been done to him. So here was Jesus riding into Jerusalem. Crowds of people there to see him. But, as I say, he was riding on a donkey. You might expect that as the king, he would want to ride a big horse. But no, he was riding this donkey. And that was because he wanted people to know how humble he was. So what do I mean by that? Why would I see Jesus as being humble? After all, he was this great king, the one who was the ruler over everybody. Well, it's really because of what was going to happen to Jesus later on in that week. You see, as I say, today we mark as Palm Sunday. It is the first week of what in the Christian calendar is called Holy Week, leading up to Easter. And the events of this week tell us about what happened to Jesus. He celebrated supper with his disciples. He was cruelly betrayed. He was tried. He was sentenced to death. And indeed, he was put to death on a cross. The cruelest form of punishment possible, crucifixion. And there is nothing more humbling than that. Jesus wanted people to know that he was going to humble himself to the point of being put to death on a cross. You can't get any more humble than that. And so this is what we recognize today. This is what Jesus was doing as he rode in on a donkey, that he was going to humble himself and be put to death. And as he humbled himself in death, here's the important thing. He was dying as somebody who didn't deserve to die. He was dying as somebody who had never done anything wrong. But as he died there, he took upon himself the wrong things that people have done, the wrong things that people like you and people like me have done in their lives, to provide forgiveness of sins. And that was even more humbling than the death itself, that Jesus should be prepared to do that Jesus should be prepared to take upon himself the wrong things of people like you and people like me. And so that if we put our trust in him today, we can know his forgiveness. We can be put into a right relationship with him. And so let's this afternoon be those who trust Jesus for what he has done, as he was prepared to humble himself. And the other thing, of course, is this: as we trust in the one who humbled himself, then in our lives, we need to be prepared to show humility towards others as well. We are not to be those who are always trying to push ourselves forward. We are not to be those who are always trying to think that we are better than anybody else. And we need to ask God to help us to be humble, that before him we would realize who we are, and before others, that we would be prepared not to be thinking about ourselves, not to be thinking about what benefits us, but that we should be thinking of others first. And if it means that it costs us something, if we have to sacrifice for it, then we are prepared to do that. And so today, on this Palm Sunday, let's remember Jesus, the one who rode into Jerusalem on a donkey, the one who humbled himself for us, the one who in his humility took upon himself the wrong things that we have done so that we can be forgiven. And let's, in response, put our trust in him and be those who live lives which are humble before other people. Well, thank you so much for watching, and may the Lord bless you.